Since March of last year, I've been telling you about my experience with neurofeedback and the benefits I've experienced, even when taking a little bit of a break. I'm going to go back to neurofeedback again, but even by taking a little break, there's the consistency that I've experienced from neurofeedback. And for those of you who have been looking at the classes and the playlist for Dr. John Silva, you know that I've shared some of the things and experiences that I've had. But did you know that there are other brain-based therapies that can help with neurological issues? Huh. So here I am telling you all about, neurofeedback, but today, which is a wonderful day in the classroom, we're fortunate to learn with the brain whisperer, Dr. John Silva, we will be talking about how these other options can help you with your life. So get out your pen and paper because class is in session. We're going to take lots of notes.
And when you need a friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here waiting for you.
Hi, my name is Lillian McDermott, and I am a certified life coach, a certified holistic cancer coach, and the host of the Lillian McDermott radio show. If this is the first time that you're in the classroom, please know I've been waiting for you. This is a safe place where you can go when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide natural ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life, and I hope you, my listening and viewing friend, will feel empowered to embrace a new truth and live the life of your dreams. Now, as you know, I have been bragging about Dr. John Silva. We've even done a webinar together, which I'm thinking we're going to be doing another one soon. Date will be posted pretty soon. But what I really do believe is that when we look at our brain in a way that you look at it as, you know, how can I rewire it? How can I rewire the brain? There are lots of options. And in Dr. Silva's fashion, he's going to offer us some more options other than neurofeedback. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am grateful that Dr. John Silva is here to do just that. Welcome back, Dr. Silva. Can you believe a month has gone by in 2025 and we are here in February already and getting ready for a new year of learning and living. So how are you doing today?
I am doing well, Lily. Thank you. Yeah, it's been a jump start to a brand new year, 2025. Looking forward to this one more than probably anyone in most recent past. I'm hopeful, and yeah, we're
Yes.
seeing some messaging, so to speak, if you want to call it that, that we've got a prosperous future ahead for all of us in terms of our health, our ability to just enjoy things, I think,
Absolutely.
is what it's coming
Absolutely.
down to. Less stress.
We're
So,
all very hopeful. So
yeah.
let's talk a little bit about neurofeedback and what that is, and then we'll go step into other brain-based therapies that could maybe resonate with somebody. Maybe somebody's not interested in doing the neurofeedback, but maybe there's something that's simpler or more in line with their lifestyle that they might be interested in. So
Sure.
share a little bit about neurofeedback and what that is all about, and then we'll step into other
Yeah,
options.
it's a great place to start. And that, as I tell people, that is the core of what I offer to my clients in this day and age and has been for quite some time in my practice. And for those that may be tuning in for the first time, when I speak of my practice, it's evolved quite a bit. It's no longer the traditional brick and mortar practice. So many of these therapies, including the neurofeedback and the ones that we'll talk about during the next hour or so are all have come to a point where the technology is advanced where they can be done from home. So much of what I'm doing these days is remote, including neurofeedback. But as I always explain to people, neurofeedback is the core, and we build upon that core. Or for someone that maybe doesn't have quite significant problems or perhaps limited resources, there are other ways to non-invasively help our brains function better. And that's the topic for today's discussion. But neurofeedback is the most direct way, again, non-invasively, to rewire, to improve our brain's function, our brain's physiology. It is the most direct way that I know that exists. Again, there could be some technologies out there in other countries I don't know exist, but as far as I'm concerned, and has been for a long time, and just again, a historical standpoint on neurofeedback itself has been around since about the 1960s. So it's a well-established therapy. Of course, it's become much more advanced with the advancements in neuroscience, the advancements in technology itself, and even to the point, as I just mentioned, in the last 6 years, it's become so advanced that now we can do this from the convenience and comfort of home without having to go to a clinic like mine to receive neurofeedback and do neurofeedback to better your brain function. So at its core, neurofeedback is using another technology called EEG. So for anyone who has ever had a head injury or perhaps a suspected lesion of some sort in their brain, a neurologist or a doctor, or if you're in a hospital setting, say with a head injury, you may have had an EEG, stands for electroencephalogram. They put a cap of some sort on your head, and basically the cap has sensors that are measuring brain waves. Brain waves is how our brains function. And people may have heard of the concept of the different brain waves that our brains produce. We have what are called delta brain waves, theta brain waves, alpha, beta. And of course, we have previous podcasts where we've dove into those specific brain waves and how they correlate with our day-to-day life, our emotions, our cognitive well-being, and who we are as human beings. So what neurofeedback does is uses that EEG technology to be able to sense and read brainwaves. Again, all this is being done non-invasively. We place sensors, and these are just sensors. They don't emit any electricity into the head. We just put sensors on the scalp at specific locations based on a person's needs. That information is then conveyed into a computer system with specialized software. And basically, the brain is given a feedback, and the feedback is typically in the form of some type of visual cues or auditory cues. So, a perfect example, and how most of my clients, and you have been able to experience this since March last year, you were watching movies or videos on Netflix or Amazon Prime, you're watching perhaps a series. But as you're watching that, different than watching it outside of the neurofeedback experience, what you had experienced or what my clients experienced is you're seeing the screen kind of fading in and out. And you also, in times, will hear the audio track that accompanies whatever you're watching, and you'll hear the volume fluctuate. What that is doing is at the time that the sensors and the software are detecting your brain waves, it's giving your brain feedback when it is able to adjust the brain waves in their optimal functioning state. See, what happens is throughout our life, we can experience let's just call them little stressors, okay, that can start to disrupt our brain waves. And we can end up in situations where certain parts of our brain and certain brain waves, let's just use delta brain waves, for example, our delta brain waves can start to become elevated. They start to operate in too high of a normal range. Or for some folks, it can be too low. So just like any other physiological function in the body that we can measure, we should have an optimal range for all of our brain waves throughout our whole brain. And what neurofeedback does is it uses a process called operant conditioning, giving your brain a reward every time it's able to shift its brainwave states into this optimal healthy zone. And it is a training, it is a workout, so it's something that's usually repeated 3 to 4 times a week. Again, can easily be done from home. And over time, what you're doing is you're actually reprogramming, and again, non-invasive, non-coercive way. It doesn't change who you have become, or perhaps your children, if you're doing this for your child, but it just makes a better version of you. I like to say, if you use computer analogy, we're taking Lily 1.0 and your software operating system, and we're upgrading to 2.0. And then as you continue to do more sessions and you're feeling better and you're noticing better cognitive abilities and your stress anxiety levels are perhaps improving and your sleep is improving.
Yep.
Now computer technology never stops advancing. So now we got a Lily Brain 3.0 now, and there's really no limit to what we potentially can do with our brain. And that's the exciting thing about this field of neuroscience and a lot of these therapies that I get to work with every day, which is exciting because, again, there's really, in my opinion, and many neuroscientists, there's really no limit to the potential we have resting between our ears and that resides in our brain.
Yeah, yeah, and it's amazing. It's amazing. So when we're looking at brain base, because I remember the last time we spoke, you said, there are other options for people other than neurofeedback. So let's look at brain-based therapy. How does it differ from traditional therapeutic approaches, or is that the traditional therapeutic approach versus neurofeedback?
So good, yeah. So let's touch on that. So traditional, let's call it allopathic, our traditional medical approach to brain-based disorders um, are typically chemical in nature, and that's just the reality. So a medication is prescribed to try to biochemically influence the brain and brain function to achieve a desired result. So, for instance, you're feeling depressed and you are diagnosed with some form of depression, and it's almost out of hand how many diagnoses and classifications of and subsets of diagnosis of depression alone. I mean, there's a plethora of different depression diagnoses. At the end of the day, what it comes down to is a person's brain waves, their brain function is not in that optimal range. And again, it could be because of a lifetime of different stressors, whether it be biochemical, emotional, head injury, but eventually depression sets in. And again, traditional approach is usually through chemistry. Now, the other approach would be perhaps you're referred out or you seek out counseling or some type of therapy. And one thing I like to say is my disclaimer is I don't knock any of these approaches. Some are better than others. I definitely don't like the chemical approach unless you absolutely need it. And you're in a life-threatening situation where perhaps your depression is so bad and you just need to come out of that state until you can figure things out or look at other interventions. But for the most part, in the long term, it doesn't really fix your brain's underlying physiology or function. And a perfect example of why we know this and how we know this, we all intuitively know it. Maybe we haven't taken the time to think about it. So let's just again come back to depression. You're prescribed, say, Wellbutrin, popular antidepressant. And as the years go on, months or years go on, you start to having a wearing effect. And most people will usually comment that, yeah, I have to I have to get an increased dose. And maybe there's a wear off effect of that one medication, so they add another one on top of it, or they change it to something a little bit more powerful of all these different antidepressant medications. But at the end of the day, if a medication was supposed to work as we think it's supposed to work and actually fix the problem, your brain not functioning properly, we should be feeling better, not just between doses, but we should get to a point where we can say, all right, I've taken my antidepressant for several months. I should be able to
Absolutely.
come off it and my depression is resolved. But that is
Absolutely.
not the case. That
Never
is absolutely
happens.
not the
It
case.
will never happen.
Mhm.
Yes, yes.
So where this differs is we are talking about advanced technologies and like neurofeedback, and many of these have existed for decades that you may not, or your listening audience may not have heard of before. But these technologies are actually aimed at correcting these imbalances, these weaknesses in the brain, these areas of the brain that have perhaps become damaged because of, again, head injury, because of trauma, because of inflammation, you name it. And when you start applying these, and many of them do take daily application, but they're easy enough to do, you actually have the best chance of correcting these imbalances in brainwave function. And that's what we're going to discuss. So on the top of my list, so we have neurofeedback, again, most direct way that I know of to influence our brain's function for the better, non-invasively. And everything I'm going to talk about from here forward, you have to realize, again, non-invasive, non-pharmaceutical, non-chemical. These are safe for virtually everybody to use, whether it be a child struggling with ADHD or an adult with depression and anxiety or PTSD. These are suitable for just about everybody. But what I like to start with is brainwave entrainment therapy. So brainwave entrainment, and there it can go by several different names. Sometimes people will refer to it as visual, audio visual entrainment therapy or neural entrainment therapy. But the key word in that is the entrainment. Entrainment. So what we're doing is we're using light and or sound stimulation. I'll describe how these devices work to influence brainwave activity. Okay, so I've used this technology personally for decades now, and I have also utilized this with my clients and still continue to utilize this. And there's several different manufacturers of this technology around the globe, here in the States and also Canada, that provide these technologies. What I love about them, they're easy to use, they're very affordable for most people. They can be easily used while you're doing your daily activities around your household. I mean, literally, one of the devices that I usually recommend, you take the control unit, you can slip it in your pocket, you can have the specially designed glasses, and you can be going about your house doing your household chores. You could be sitting watching television, you could be sitting reading a book, and you could actually be influencing your brain's function for the better. So let me give you a little,
Wow. What was
yeah.
that? What is that called?
So it's called brainwave entrainment therapy.
Oh,
So
okay. Okay. No,
yeah,
no, but is there a particular brand that you have? Because yeah, is there a particular
yeah, there's a
brand?
particular brand. It is called, it's a strange name, but it actually is an acronym for, and I don't even remember. It's called the David Delight.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So, and again, there's several different versions from different manufacturers, but the point being is this is stuff that in the past you would have to go to a clinic for because the devices were fairly large. Again, anything with technology now, not only does it become better, more advanced, but the scalability of making these things more portable, and more cost effective. So now you don't have to go to a clinic for a lot of these therapies. So brainwave entrainment is just one of those examples. But to help everyone in the listening audience picture what this is all about. So it's, again, there's different variations of it, but basically you have these specially designed glasses. Okay, so think of sunglasses. And on the back side of the lenses, there are LED diodes. And these plug into some type of a control unit, small control unit. The one I was just referring to runs on a 9-volt battery, so it's portable. And you basically you choose from a variety of different programs, whether you're trying to lift your mood, get out of a funk, try to lift your depression, or perhaps you're having a very stressed, anxious day, or you want to get yourself out of a panic mode. There are specific programs to use your brain's ability to move your brain out of that state. And it can be that powerful. I've seen people within minutes of putting the glasses on be able to calm themselves down out of a panic state. And by the time their typical 20 to 30-minute session ends, they're a whole different person. They've not only gotten through that panic attack with ease, but they're feeling calm. And the cool thing is, it not only can be used, and I like to refer to this technology specifically, home based, as kind of like your brain's first aid kit. You know, we have a first aid kit for cuts and bumps and all the things that we deal with in our household or in our car and when we're traveling, but no one stops to think about the brain. And I love to think of this particular technology because of its ease of use. It's portable as your brain's first aid kit. And like I was saying, there's programs in for lifting your mood, for decreasing stress and anxiety. There's some wonderful sleep programs. There's programs in also to improve your cognitive function, so to really sharpen your mind. So let's just say you're having a day, and so many people are reporting this in this day and age where they barely get through their day because they're in this constant state of just fogginess, brain fog. They just can't organize their thoughts. They can't hold a conversation. Or if it's not all the time, people will say frequently throughout the day, I just feel this just like drain of energy and this fog comes about me. This is a wonderful therapy. Put on the glasses. You could be doing it. You could use it at work. You're on your computer. Put on the glasses, and there's usually two pairs of glasses. One is intended to be used while your eyes are closed, doing eyes closed sessions like for sleep. But then they have a pair of glasses that have view holes with the LEDs embedded on the sides of the periphery of your vision, and you just dial up the intensity to where you just see the flickering light and you're doing your task, you're reading a book, and most sessions run from 20 to 40 minutes at most. And you can actually get your brain waves to shift. And that's why it's called entrainment. It's basically using frequency of light pulse through the glasses to guide your brain waves into a healthier state to take you out of that panic or to help you with your sleep state, to bring your brain into more delta brainwave activity, which is our sleep state.
So does this product, the David's the Light that you're talking about right
Mhm.
now, that you can use about your house and while you're working, it sounds like something I would like to try. That it doesn't hold you where you're sitting there for 40 minutes or 30 minutes, having to be still. Especially for someone who is as busy as I am. So what conditions are best suited for this type of therapy? I don't know if that is a fair question
Mhm.
because, okay, so what would you say? Is there a
Yeah.
particular condition that works best for this type of therapy?
Yes, to everything. Just
Everything. Okay.
no,
So
seriously.
how does
There,
it
so
compare to neurofeedback? How does that compare to neurofeedback?
So, and same thing with neurofeedback. Again, we're and let's look at big picture. So let's take us back up to 40,000 feet, so to speak. No matter whether it's neurofeedback, brainwave entrainment, what are we doing? We're trying to get our brain into a more optimized, healthier functioning state.
Okay. Okay.
Something again, we most of us don't ever take any time to think about until there is a significant problem,
Mm-hmm.
or we have a head trauma, or we've had a stroke, or
Yeah.
something of that nature. And unfortunately, for some situations like that, it's too late. But for the rest of us that are having cognitive issues on a daily basis, like brain fog, or we're suffering depression, anxiety, sleep issues, you really need to start thinking about your brain as the solution to your problem, because that's where the problem is coming from. So, 40,000 foot view, what are we doing with neurofeedback? Is we are using feedback, operant conditioning, to train your brain to bring your brain waves into an optimized range, just like blood pressure. Again, I like to use other conditions. We know we should have a blood pressure within 120
Mm-hmm.
over 80.
Mm-hmm.
Anything beyond that range, say 10 points high or low, we know we have a known blood pressure issue. And then, of course, depending on what intervention you choose, the aim is to bring it back into that range. Our brain waves, our brain function operates the same way. We should have a normal operating range for all of our brain waves. So brainwave entrainment is just another tool, again, home-based, easy to use, that we can use to teach our own brain, bring our own brain waves into a more optimized
Okay.
state.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 So does that make
No,
sense?
yeah, it does make sense. Okay. Would one be better than the other, or do they both achieve the same thing? Because when I think of like something like brain um what's the name of that
Brain
it's the
tap?
one brain tap. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, brain tap. I
That's
don't know.
another version of brainwave entrainment. Yep.
So, because I couldn't walk around with brain tap, I could
No.
not do that. But I didn't consider brain tap as something that I felt like I felt that with neurofeedback. Is there what I'm trying to get to is one stronger or more professional than the other? Like neurofeedback, is there like a hierarchy? Brain tap,
Yes.
okay. So that's where I
Yeah,
want to
yeah. So
go.
as I mentioned, neurofeedback is always going to be the most powerful,
That's going to be the most
because what we're
powerful.
doing is we're using instantaneous feedback to
Got it.
your brain at that moment when you're doing a neurofeedback session to correct those brain waves for long-term benefit. Again, it takes time. Okay. Brainwave entrainment has that potential too, but it's not as direct.
Got it.
But again,
Okay.
it also has advantages too. Like I said, first aid. Not that you can't use neurofeedback session as a first aid kit to remediate, say, panic at the moment, or to remediate your sleep, but this is just an easier
Yeah,
way to put
you
on a
can go
pair of
on about your
glasses
business.
and
Yeah.
go about your business. As you
Yeah.
know, you have to put the sensors on with neurofeedback. It's
Yeah.
not difficult.
You're
It-
grounded when you're doing that. You
yeah,
don't
yeah,
move
you
around.
really can't move.
You're like
Exactly.
Leghorn, Foghorn. Remember that cartoon with the dog that would just go just
Yes.
as far as the cable would take him. So yeah,
Yeah.
so
Uh,
okay, so go ahead. And so is there anything else about the David's Delight that you want to highlight?
so we talked about the visual part, and the visual part's probably the most impactful, because you have to realize our brain function, so much of our brain's function is dedicated to one of our five senses, what's the sense of vision. Right? So much of our brain processing power is dedicated to vision. So by using the glasses, but what's really neat about this, and you mentioned brain tap utilizes both sound, auditory stimulation, as well as visual stimulation. And for those of you in the listening audience that maybe not have seen any one of these devices, a brain tap device, it sounds like a surgery, but it's not. Imagine a set of headphones, over the air headphones, with an integrated visor that slips down over your eyes. You can't see through this visor, but it has these LED diodes embedded on the back side of the lenses. It's intended to be used while your eyes are closed. And yes, why? While our eyes are closed, believe it or not, our brains can still see the flickering light from the LEDs as they flicker at specific frequencies, depending on what we're trying to achieve. But like the brain tap and a lot of the devices that I've used that utilize this brainwave entrainment, we also, and you can use them independently, but the best way, best impact is you also put on some headphones, whether it be earbud style headphones, over the ear headphones. And then what you'll be doing is, let's just say you're watching a television program, called television. You're watching something streaming on your iPad. So what you would do is you would plug this into your iPad. You would take the audio into the headphones through the device. And then what you're doing is you're layering over what you're watching, the audio track. You're layering over what are called binaural beats. Now, so for some people in the audience, you may have heard of this concept before because, again, this has been around for a long time. Binaural beats are just these frequency tones that your brain picks up on. And again, it's a method of entraining the brain to move it into a healthier, more optimized state, depending on what you're dealing with. Again, there's programs for anxiety, sleep, depression, increasing cognitive performance and such. So, but the power of this is using both. So you imagine you've got headphones on, you have these specially designed glasses with the LED lights. Both of those are plugged into a control unit. And again, you're going about your business of working on a computer, reading a book, watching a television program. Again, it's small enough and portable enough. You could be going around your house doing your household chores, and you're doing something healthy for your brain. That's what I love about where we've come with these technologies. Is they're easy to use. They can be done from home, and just like with neurofeedback, it is something that you don't want to just use for the first aid purposes, as I mentioned, but you want to continue to utilize once, maybe even twice a day, to really get your brain in a healthier state.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, the binaural beats that you're talking about, the Brain Tap added a lot of their meditations or the things that you listen to with binaural beats.
yeah.
And yeah, I've interviewed my Patrick Porter. He was a regular on my show. I had like a link for people to try it for free in the past. I haven't done that lately, but I have both units, and I used to enjoy going to sleep with them, and so
Hmm.
that I can testify to that product. It's been a very nice, but again, like you said, compared to neurofeedback, I would much rather do the neurofeedback, although being flexible and be able to walk around. But when you have the brain tap, you need to be laying down or
Yeah,
relax in a relaxed state. Yeah,
that's a form of
yeah,
brainwave entrainment that requires
yeah,
you to do with your eyes closed in a relaxed state. And
yeah,
again, it's intended to be that way for specific reasons and conditions.
yeah,
And it has some advantages too, because not only do you have the binaural beats, the LED diodes and the lenses, but you also have Dr. Porter or one of his colleagues or one of the very many guests that he has on his
yeah.
audio sessions walking you through what he calls a creative visualization and
Yes, yeah,
relaxation exercise in your mind. And he has a plethora of different programming you can choose from the library. In fact, I think everything is now app-based, subscription-based. So if you're struggling, say, with PTSD, or you're struggling with anxiety or sleep issues, there's a whole library dedicated to those specific
yeah,
conditions or issues or challenges. And even beyond that, and that's, again, we're talking about using these for conditions or challenges or problems, but realize with both of these therapies, there's a whole nother avenue, and we're talking peak performance. Like I said,
yes. I was,
why
yeah,
not look at it from the perspective of let's upgrade my brain from a 1.0 to a 2.0 to a 3.0. So there's programs within BrainTap and this other one I was referring to that you can tune into. In fact, they have a number of different programming sessions for basketball players, for golfers. So you want to get a heads up on your buddies if you're a pro golfer or you consider yourself pro. A lot of these professionals they won't allude to this, but part of what they're doing is they're either going to a sports performance coach and or they are utilizing some of these technologies to improve the mental portion of their athletic performance or task or skill. And I work with a lot of athletes. I have worked with athletes over the years, and it's amazing how many of them know about these technologies. And again, these aren't anything new. But it's interesting that within that realm, how they don't like to share that with their, maybe not necessarily their teammates if they're a part of a team, but they don't like to divulge this information because it's their little, it's like their edge on their competitors.
They don't want anybody else to know that they're using things to help them be at optimal level.
Hmm.
It's almost like you have to be gifted, and it's like a lot of people think that you can just show up and be a talented player. No, you got to do a lot more things off the field
Oh yeah.
to help you, and that is definitely. I used to have when I was dancing. There was a guy that was a big deal football player in
Hmm.
the school nearby. And he used to take ballet. And I don't think he told anybody that he was taking
Huh.
ballet, but it helped him be very flexible and
That's
help him
sure.
with, jumping and leaping. And he was a great, dancer as well. I mean, we didn't have a lot of male dancers, so it was nice to have that there. So it,
Yeah.
it does peak performance. You can't just go out there and work yourself to death. There's other things that you can do that are less invasive that will help you perform better. And I love the fact that you're bringing up that this has nothing to do with, like if you don't have an issue that you want to work on, and you just want to be a better you, a
Hmm.
better executive, better mom, better dad, a better college student. These are things that people can opt for as well. It doesn't have to
Yeah.
be trauma or anything to that effect, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what I try to really relate to people is, again, take care of your brain and take care of our whole body, but you have to remember our brain is command central. There's just every single, as I say, every single physiological function, right down to the level of our cells. And our bodies are comprised of trillions of cells, are all masterfully controlled by our
Yeah.
brain.
Yeah.
So, but again, it's so often overlooked. We don't pay attention to it until we are so desperate in need of, because we're struggling with something, or we've had a head injury, or perhaps you've had seizures, you develop seizures, you have a stroke, and then people start to wake up. Oh, I've got this thing between my ears and my skull that I need to pay attention to.
Yeah.
The time now is to pay attention to it, and especially if you have kids that are struggling. And what I love, I mean, I like working with people of all ages, but kids, just as with any health challenge for the most part, kids rebound quickly. Their brains are just so what I call plastic or pliable. I mean, all of us have that capability of what's called neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself into healthier neurological patterns. But kids' brains are just that much more plastic and pliable. And to see kids, and they love doing this kind of stuff because first, it's cool technology, and they get to wear these special glasses. I try to make it fun with adults, but kids especially. Hey, you're wearing these superpower glasses. We're going to make your
Yeah.
brain stronger. We're going to give you superpowers. You get to watch your YouTube videos while you do it. It's like, yeah, sign me up.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And so I think this would be a good time to kind of like shift gears, because this is a way that you can learn a little bit more about Dr. Silva as well. As you know, week after week that we've been in the classroom, not only do I highlight some of the things that I'm doing in the classroom, which by the way, you can go to whenyouneedafriend.com, and while you're there, please subscribe if you're not a subscriber. If you are a subscriber to my website, then you already know all of Dr. John Silva's information. Silva is really good. We also have created a webinar together called Rewiring the Brain. And so if you decide that you would like to listen to that, there's some discounts associated with it. If you decide that you want to learn more and maybe try a little bit more to see what could be, if there's something that you want to rewire, how to rewire it, which is it's a no-brainer. You can go to Dr. Silva at drsilva.com, and you can either call him at 772-494-2576, or you can just reach out to me and I can kind of introduce you to Dr. Silva. There's so many different things that we can do to help grow the classroom. One of them is going and checking out my sponsors. So support Dr. Silva and all the other sponsors the way that they are supporting the classroom. You can go to my Shop Now bag, and in there we have lots of different Lilly approved products that are good from head to toe, even pain management. And I marvel at the fact that when I purchased my first Avasia, it was because Dr. John Silva was the teacher, the instructor. And once I bought this pain management tool that I had been bringing to doctors for 5 years, finally went to a class and bought my first unit. And by the way, I've got it on me today
Do you?
because, yes, I do. I do. And because I've got plantar fasciitis and I've just been doing some treatments. And every time, 3 months after I bought this unit that I just showed you, was rear-ended. And let me tell you, loved having it with me and not have to borrow from the legals, the Brenda and Michael Legal to treat my body. I had my own, was able to keep myself from surgery of my neck. I had 4 herniated discs, a spinal compression, a concussion, torn left shoulder, and I did it on my healing all with Avasia. So if these are products that are Lilly approved, check them out, see how they can help your body as well. And then last but not least, you can become an enrolled student in the classroom, and whether it's $1 or $1,000 a month or a one-time donation, whatever the case might be. And by the way, all of you who are donating, I am so grateful. As time has gone by, costs have gone up, and it's time for me to be able to have everybody help with these costs as opposed to it coming from me. And so I'm really excited that we have wonderful sponsors joining us for the generosity of the people. Just know that this is free to you. And if you wanted to watch television, you have to pay for cable. So I'm hoping that more of you will say, okay, I'll send $1. I'll send whatever it is that I can. And I'm sure that all of you can afford at least $1 to send in 2025 so that we could all thrive. So today I said we have Dr. John Silva in the classroom. We are talking about the different kind of brain-based therapies that you can opt for other than neurofeedback, because there is something right for everybody. And I had heard about neurofeedback, Dr. Silva, for the longest time. And it wasn't until I met you again 12 years later that I met you again that I thought, you know what? I trust you. I want to try this because, one of the fears and misconceptions are that somehow you're going to hypnotize me and make me cluck like a chicken whenever you feel like it. You know, that type of thing where you're
Yeah.
hypnotized and all of a sudden your personality is gone, that you're not who you used to be, your sense of humor has been gone. But honestly, those things happen when we're troubled and when we are not, our brain is out of alignment to where we want to be. All those things can happen. But with neurofeedback, it starts kind of like taking the spaghetti noodles that are just all wrapped together and just kind of lining them up so that
Mhm.
it's a much better experience. I've personally have experienced it, and from the moment we started talking about this, I'm just so grateful. There's been no turning back. As many people as I can, I want to turn on to this um, non-invasive procedure or therapy or treatment, entrainment or whatever we want to call it, so that it could change their life. And if this is
Mhm.
something that somebody needs, or somebody, I don't think we need it. I think we deserve it. I really do feel that we all deserve to give ourselves the opportunity to kind of reboot our brain.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
that's
I agree.
that's what I like to call this, the rebooting of the brain, and what are we going to use to reboot it? So share, or there's anything else that would be a brain-based therapy that you'd like to share with us today?
Yeah, so you just brought up the Avasia technology. So Avasia is a microcurrent technology. I know that sounds strange, microcurrent
Put
in
out
my
like that.
body or electricity in especially my brain, but microcurrent in their Avasia, Literally showing you the Avasia, one of several variations that they have. Wonderful technology. So, and I always like to go back, and I think I may have mentioned this on a previous classroom. Um, I forget the exact quote from Nikola Tesla. So those of you that may know Nikola Tesla, I mean, incredible, brilliant person, invented many inventions throughout his lifetime and his career. But he has a quote that goes something, if you want to understand the universe or yourself or how things operate at large, think in terms of energy. All of this is all energy based. So you may have heard me mention several times with brainwave entrainment or neurofeedback frequencies. Frequencies is just a way to measure energy. It's how energy works. Everything comes down to energy. Okay, even the chair that you might be sitting on right now, believe it or not, is a bundle of molecules all bouncing around. There's energy in that chair. Okay, you're not able to sense it, but it's there. And a lot of this is beyond our five senses, and that's where we get into the what they call the crazy world of quantum mechanics or quantum physics that has the science to explain how all this works. But the reality is, these things that we're talking about have been around, like I said, for decades. And a lot of them are born out of these incredible people like Nikola Tesla, um, Dr. Royal Raymond Rife, which I may have mentioned before. Back in the 30s, he invented a energy cure for a variety of different ailments, including cancer. I mean, the guy was published in research journals, was on the front page of many newspapers around the country for the first cancer clinical trial where they healed, I think it was 30, maybe it was 18 patients of cancer, otherwise uncurable cancer with traditional approach. All 18 were cured within months of using an energy-based therapy that had no invasive properties, didn't cause any radiation, and these people were healed. And why aren't we seeing this? Why aren't we hearing about this? So for those of you tuning in, this is maybe the first time you're hearing about neurofeedback, brainwave entrainment. But welcome to our world, you and I, Lily. I've been doing this stuff for so long. I mean,
I
this is just
know.
part of what we do, and it's interesting when you engage in a conversation and people kind of have that glance at you like it's like what but in the reality this stuff has been around for a long time, or at
Yeah.
least the basis of it. Again, Nikola Tesla set the stage for PEMF therapy, which I hope to get to. But let's go back to microcurrent. So Avazia is just one great tool, but there's many others out there. There's another device that is very similar in form and fashion to the Avazia. It's a kind of a handheld unit that runs on a rechargeable battery, or I think AA batteries, and you put on ear clips. And you
Oh,
do feel a little bit of a tingling sensation, and there
is it
is an
that
accessory.
yeah, there's an accessory for it,
Yeah,
right?
ear
Okay.
clips. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah. So what we're doing is we're using microcurrent, and just for people to understand, microcurrent is a small amount of electricity, but not in a zapping way, not in an electrocuting way. Yes, you do feel a little buzzing or tingling sensation, and you have full control of the intensity. But when you put these things on your ears, you have a right and left ear clip. What you're doing is you're sending these frequencies. Again, it all comes down to the frequencies basically through your brain. And I know it seems invasive, it seems crazy, but again, if we can influence our brain's physiology using electricity, you have to remember also our brains are electricity. Our whole body is electric in nature, but especially our brains. So if we can utilize external electricity at the right dimensions and level of how our brain and our body operates, which by the way, our brain and our body operate at the microcurrent level. So why not use a technology that communicates it with it at the same level, which is microcurrent? So we clip on these ears, we dial up the intensity, we feel a little gentling, tingling sensation. I like to call it a little massage on your ears because it feels like a bunch of little fingers massaging your earlobes. But anyway, you just sit there, and again, it's one of those technologies like you're doing right now, having this podcast. You could be at your workplace, you could be sitting at home watching television, reading a book, and you are using a specific program, specific frequencies through the microcurrent to get you out of a panic state, to help you rest and get to sleep here in the next hour, to help you to excel at your next test if you're a student in school or in college. So it's wonderful application. One of the leaders in this microcurrent technology as it relates to brain function is a company called AlphaStem. They've had
Hmm.
a product on the market since I think the early 70s. Yes, the early 70s. And this is the crazy part is docs like myself in this field of helping people with brain-based disorders, call them mental health disorders. I don't like to use that terminology. I like to reverse the technology, the the words and say brain based. It's a more gentle approach. Plus, it gives us a sense that hey,
Yeah.
I know where the source is coming from, and there are some solutions for me. It doesn't have to be just medication. But anyway, how a doctor is not trained in school on a technology that has been around longer than they've ever been in career. Probably they're, if they come from a lineage of doctors longer than their parents were even in their careers. Yet this technology is FDA approved. A lot of these things are FDA cleared for certain conditions like depression, anxiety, and sleep. But yet most of us tuning into this
Don't even
podcast
know.
probably never heard of them before.
Yeah.
Now, so
What is this one called again?
it's called Alpha Stim.
Alpha stem.
Alpha Stim. Again, it's just a form. It's another device out there that exists, and there's several others. And there's probably some that I'm not even aware of, either here in the States or in other countries. But the reality is, again, they're all based on energy medicines, if you want to call them that, energy healing therapies. And again, a lot of these things have their root from the early 1900s with people like Dr. Royal Raymond Rife. Hulda Clark is another inventor from back in the day. And yeah, and again, Nikola Tesla. So yeah, so again, just one other application. And here's the exciting part about this. As you can see, first, I like to geek out on the technology part of this stuff. I like to try to understand the nitty gritty of the science, understand how the electricity works, understand how the lights pulsing work to influence our brain. None of you that, or anyone who's using the technology, you don't have to go that deep into it unless you desire to. It's all you have to do is just know some basic operation skills, and all of these devices come with a simple manual or YouTube videos that you can learn on how to use the devices. They're very, very simple. You put the glasses on, you put the ear clips on, and you let it do its thing. You don't have to understand any of it. But the fact is, it's based on energy therapies that have been around and in existence for years. But what gets really exciting is when you start to layer these things. And what I mean by that is what I call a multi-therapeutic approach, where now you're starting to use these things synergistically for even more of an impact than just one of them on their own. So picture this, something I've been doing in my clinical practice for years, and there are certain clients that I may utilize, for instance, neurofeedback. So you're familiar with doing neurofeedback, Lily. You
Mhm.
have sensors on your scalp, and you are watching a Netflix movie as the video image fades in and out on the laptop computer. Now imagine you've got these brainwave entrainment glasses that have view holes so you can still see your movie, but now you've got these LED lights pulsing, not distracting to where you can't pay attention to your movie, but just at enough intensity that you have full control over, where they're kind of flickering in the periphery. And what
Mhm.
we do is we tune those frequencies and how they're flickering at the same frequency to match your neurofeedback training protocol
Hmm.
specific to your brain's needs. So this is where these are times where it's helpful to have someone who is versed in these technologies, these therapies, to kind of bring it together. But it's exciting when we do that because now what we're doing, we're influencing our brain's function through neurofeedback. We're layering that with brainwave entrainment, and now we can get things moving along even quicker. And again, there are certain circumstances and situations or conditions or severity of conditions with clients where we have to do that. We just got to get the brain to get out of its dysfunctional state, its severely dysfunctional state, as quickly as possible, so we can kind of rescue this brain and help this person. So this is where this kind of work is really exciting. Same thing with microcurrent. You can layer that with other brain-based technologies like the brainwave entrainment. So we've got neurofeedback, brainwave entrainment, microcurrent therapy. Another one that I look at and I've been using for years. And by the way, for those of you listening, I have either tinkered with these myself or used them on a regular basis. So Avazio microcurrent, just like you, Lily, I use it daily. Okay. And I'm not using it necessarily. Yes, there are moments where I use it for pain, for muscle spasms, but I'm using it for wellness
Your
purposes
vagus
every
nerve.
day for vagus nerve stimulation, which can be a whole nother topic. And maybe we should do
We,
a
yes,
podcast on that.
yes.
I mean, there's books written about just that one nerve in our body and the influence it has on our overall health.
Hmm.
But anyway, as I was saying, I've used these things, and it's really neat that you can layer these things. And another one that I've used is called photobiomodulation. Okay, it's the application of LED diodes, similar to the brainwave entrainment, or laser diodes. And again, here's one of those words where people start thinking laser, oh my gosh, this is surgery. I'm going to cut or burn myself. Now we're talking very low intensity output of light from an LED diode or a laser diode. And again, these are things that up until about, say, 5, 6 years ago, you would have to go to a clinic for. Now there are devices designed by these companies that are user friendly, cost effective, utilize lasers, lights to influence your brain's physiology. And how photobiomodulation works is through the application of light through the cranium into the brain, again, non-invasively. And one of its main approaches from a physiological standpoint, a functional standpoint, is to increase blood flow. It's primarily what it's doing. And it's important that we have blood flow throughout our entire body, but especially our heart and our brain, because our heart and our brain, of any parts of our body, demand the most energy. And how do we get energy? It's from glucose, from the foods that we eat, and from oxygen, from our breath. And how do we move that and shift that around our body? Is through blood flow. So you put on, so there's several different apparatuses. They have whole helmet devices that have LED or laser diodes in them that shine into the brain. And again, non-invasive. They even make a little device that runs on a AAA battery that has a little nasal cannula that you clip on the edge of your nose. And when you're using it, it lights up your nose like Rudolph. You look kind of silly, but it works. And what it does, it specifically if you're shining it into the nose, is it actually lights up what's
Inside the
called the
brain?
prefrontal cortex and frontal
Wow.
cortex, which is a lot of your cognitive functions and
Wow.
also a lot of your emotional regulation. So imagine again, you're sitting there doing your work on your computer, and or you're watching television. You got a little clip on your nose, and it runs for 20 minutes. You don't feel any heat, you don't feel any burning, but you're increasing the circulation in your brain. And what it also does, again, I'm diving into some of the science here, but it increases blood flow, circulation, which is important for our brain. But what it does is at the cellular level is it activates the mitochondria. So
Mm.
I think we've talked about this in previous podcasts. Take it back, way back, way back, way back to high school biology. We look at a cell, okay, and we have all these different parts or organelles in the cell. We have the cell membrane, we have the nucleus. Do you remember the little things called mitochondria? Do you
Mhm.
remember their main function? They're called the powerhouse of the cell. It's the part of our cell, and there's many of them throughout our cells, but these are the parts of our cell that take, again, glucose, oxygen, take them through this chemical reaction and give us energy in the form of what we call ATP. That's the unit of energy. So getting a little biochemical here, but what light therapy does through laser and light or LED is activates instantaneously. When you turn that thing on, reaches the cells, activates the mitochondria to ramp up your energy. Who can't use more energy in this day and age? Okay, especially up here where we need it most in our brain. So again, just another example of something that has been around for a long, long time. In fact, the first energy-based medicine or therapy that I brought into my practice was laser therapy many years ago. I've been in practice for 23 years now, and it was one of my first big investments was a clinical-based laser device. Again, didn't produce any heat, wasn't used for burning. Yes, there is an application for laser for surgery, for dermatology. We're talking a different application here where it penetrates through your body and activates the mitochondria in your cells, improves circulation and blood flow. So just another example. So in summary, neurofeedback, brainwave entrainment, microcurrent therapy, photobiomodulation or laser or LED light therapy. In fact, I'm starting to see, I don't know if you're seeing them where you are or those in the listening audience, we have these healthcare centers or these gyms that are starting to incorporate these full body, almost like a tanning bed that has these LED lights. And they're using photobiomodulation to kind of activate the
Are
mitochondria
those
throughout
like
your
the
whole
med
body.
beds? Are those the med beds you're talking about? I've been
Not
hearing
med
about something
beds.
called med beds.
Yeah, med beds are a concept that I hope are real and will be part of our future. There's speculation. No, I don't think I've seen any solid concrete proof, but that's something entirely different that
Okay,
uses the
okay,
properties of
okay.
quantum
Yeah.
mechanics. But no, this is using photobiomodulation, but whole body application.
Oh,
We have a place here in town that is like a little gym. And as a added benefit of being a monthly member, you have access to this photobiomodulation bed that
wow.
basically helps to energize your body, helps with recovery after workout, helps to improve blood flow.
Nice.
And again, it's a technology or a therapy I personally use. In fact, that's something I use almost on a daily basis as well. Yeah.
Very
But
nice. Very
again,
nice.
all
This
these
is
can be directed. Our focus is always the brain, but all of these can be utilized for the brain, and most of these can also be utilized in the convenience of home. Yeah.
And we got about a minute left in the class today, but I just want to emphasize the importance of, sleep and nutrition and stress management, as well as hydration in the body, to kind of also augment to make sure that all these treatments are embraced
Oh
by
yeah.
the body.
Got
So,
to have that foundation. So good dietary habits, good sleep, exercise. And for those of you tuning in, again, this may be a lot of new information for you. One thing I always like to offer as a service, and of course you have my contact information. If you go to my website, you can schedule complimentary consultations. Just use my self scheduler, and I just ask that you show up for the appointment. We'll do it virtually through Zoom. But even if we just open up that conversation and pick up from where we're leaving off on this podcast, and maybe you or your child or a loved one is suffering with something, at least let me start to put together a preliminary game plan, so to speak.
mhm.
Advise you on, all right, what's the next best steps as far as testing or diagnostics, or perhaps get you a brain-based therapy, and I can give you some guidance on how to properly apply it
Yeah,
to
yeah.
your specific needs. So that's a service I've always offered. So go ahead and more than welcome to call me or schedule through my website.
Well, I think it's wonderful. You can go to drjohnsilva.com and you can start your journey of health. As we enter the new year, usually by February, all those resolutions are all done. So now we just really need to make a commitment for our health and wellness and thrive in 2025. So thank you so much, Dr. Silva, for everything that you do. This is great information. It's interesting that, some people will listen to this and say, yeah, no, I'd rather take the pill. But eventually we're going to realize that frequency, and our body, like you said, is electric, and that frequency may be what's missing with all the EMFs that are happening, and kind of like making our bodies more deficient in
Mhm.
in life, and having these like, for example, it took my daughter a year when she had plantar fasciitis. For me, I just put on the machine. I follow the protocol, the Avasia, which I have on right now, and then the pain goes away. And so the problem with me is I don't sit still. So in the last since Sunday, I've been on bed rest. I've been keeping my foot up. I've been using crutches because I need to get on top of it so it'll go away. So I'm excited that we do have these products that I can opt for and not create a scar with surgery. And I'm sure that there'll be a doctor out there that wanted to operate on my neck, that wanted to operate on my foot, but I would rather do something natural first, and if necessary, then opt for something a little bit more invasive. But for now, we have all these options for brain-based therapies, and I'm so grateful to you. Thank you so much, Dr. Silva. I really appreciate it.
You are welcome. It's always
Okay.
been a pleasure being on the show.
Of course, of course. And please remember, we'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. This is Lillian McDermott and Dr. John Silva, wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever. Good job. Good job.
The opinions and advice expressed on the Lillian McDermott radio show are intended for the individual callers and guests on the program and are presented to our wider audience solely for general educational purposes. Please act responsibly and consult personally with your own medical, psychological, or nutritional expert before taking any steps to improve your life.